On October 8, 2018, Hurricane Michael underwent a 48-hour rapid intensification period where it went from a Category 1 hurricane to a Category 4 hurricane. By landfall on October 10, 2018 at 12:30 p.m. Central Time, Hurricane Michael was an unprecedented for the region Category 5 hurricane, making landfall near Tyndall Air Force Base, Florida. Hurricane Michael was the strongest hurricane in recorded history to make landfall on the Florida Panhandle. Landing with sustained winds of 161 miles per hour and a minimum pressure of 919 millibars, the storm was the fourth most powerful hurricane to hit the United States, spreading devastation far inland through many counties in northwestern Florida, from Bay County, Gulf County, Calhoun County, even through Jackson County and Leon County, where the state capital is located. Hurricane Michael was unique in that it maintained its major hurricane status all the way through the Florida-Georgia state line. As it entered Seminole County, Georgia, it was still a strong Category 3 hurricane. Across northwestern Florida and into the state of Georgia, Hurricane Michael was responsible for $25 billion in damages. These are the 31 voices of Hurricane Michael, representing the many unique experiences and perspectives of the community members who endured the storm and its impacts. Voices of hope, empathy, pain, lessons learned, grit, determination, and extensive insight into one of the most catastrophic hurricane seasons the Florida Panhandle has ever encountered. I'm meteorologist Melissa Thomas, and allow me to introduce you to
Hello, I'm meteorologist Melissa Thomas, here with another one of the voices of Hurricane Michael's Voice, the project. Today we're speaking with Mr. Matt Coleman, who we really appreciate for stopping by today to give us his perspective and his experience through Hurricane Michael, who made landfall on October 10th, 2018. So we are nearing the year anniversary to that. Let's begin with getting to know Matt a little bit more. How was Panama City home to you before the storm?
I've lived here since 1996 with my wife, and we bought our first house here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Became homeowners in the area, so
Yes.
over 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So local.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. That summer rolls around. It's 2018. How are you feeling? Are you feeling prepared? Are you thinking hurricane?
It's the word is prepared, and you think you're prepared, and all the things that you think are important, you find out later after the storm, during the aftermath, that those things weren't as important as some of the other things that you didn't do.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So let's go into that a little bit further. Does anything stand out to you on that front?
Honestly, losing our house like we did, I had no idea where to start, what to do next. We had money, resources. Some people reached out to us, helped us out financially. Insurance company was great to us. We were going to put in a FEMA claim that we would have had to pay back.
Yeah.
We never actually completed that because our insurance company was that fast.
And you know what? As much negativity as the insurance companies are catching throughout this experience with most people, I like to highlight the good where we find it. So in your experience, your insurance company took care of you.
Our insurance company was good. I would have to say, even losing the house, my wife and I feel very blessed because there's so many people who had it so much worse than we did.
You still lost your home?
We did.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Well, that's okay. We're all right now.
Don't diminish what you went through.
Well, true. But honestly, knowing what to do was the hardest thing. Mandatory evacuation order came through on the television, and it came on my phone. When I was at work, I work on the beach. And I said, sounds like it's real this time. Yeah. I've been through many storms here. We moved here right after Opal. We know what that did. That was the last major storm here. There's been some other ones that did some bad damage. Ivan and George.
Ivan was not fun.
The tornadoes.
Yeah.
I had no idea tornadoes were an issue. Yeah. And I think, I can't speak from a scientific standpoint, but I think that's what decimated most of the neighborhood here. It just, you look at the damage and it had to be tornadoes.
It looked like one big tornado.
Yes.
Moved through the area. Scientifically, whether they were traditional tornadoes or not, they still acted like tornadoes. And essentially, I feel like, speaking to people, essentially tornadoes.
Yeah.
Tornado.
Yeah.
So you didn't have basically going through this. You didn't have this how-to handbook on how to handle post-devastation of the scale in your home.
No. Fortunately, like I said, we had good insurance, and we were able to financially get things done. But as far as like knowing what to do, it was very difficult for my wife and I. And she was a saint through the whole thing. And if I didn't have her, I'd probably still be underneath a tree crying somewhere, because she's very good about getting paperwork filed and everything else. And she's everything I'm not. Whereas I'm the carry the suitcases, let's get the car going and load up the car and everything.
The bureaucracy behind it.
Yes,
very important.
It is super important.
And the timely fashion of getting that paperwork started.
Yes,
vital.
Very vital. And then, we had so much indecision. Leaving, we packed up our cat and essentials, things that we thought were we were going to be gone for a couple of days. The main concern was thinking there'd be no power. We'd come back to no power. This is where my wife's not so good. I'm a little bit better on primitive situations. There's no power. That's fine. She's got to have electricity, so
most of us do.
I had a cousin in St. Pete reached out to us, and we evacuated to their house.
So you did not shelter through the storm?
No, we did not. And my heart goes out to anybody who did, because they are really much braver than I am.
What was it like being away from your home as this thing is making landfall?
You're going to turn into a spectator, which is unfortunate, but it's just the human condition. You're going to sit there, and all we watched was the Weather Channel and just watched it all unfold. Yeah. And then when they announced that it had hit land, some reports are coming through. Of course, communication was not so good here. Somebody I work with, Jen, who works with me, she works with me again. She took a break. She was nice enough to go with her phone and videotape our house.
Oh, wow.
And say, well, look, everything's okay, guys. She's sheltered through the storm.
Yeah.
And she had a young child and pets and everything else. And she goes, there's no power, but your house is still here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the house is up on pilings. It's an old 1942 Wainwright shipyard house, brick, okay? I sat there for a year after year and said, this place is brick. Nothing's going to happen to it. Look how long it's been here. I told my wife, like a fool, don't be like that. Because I said, nothing could happen. All we're going to do is lose power and we'll be inconvenienced. Yeah. She shows the video on the outside of the house. I'm like, everything looks great.
Have a little hope.
Yeah, I'm like, there's hope.
Confirming
I got a home to go back to, Still hadn't had any reports from work. We're watching the traffic patterns on I-10. I-10 was closed at that time. I think it was about probably 3 or 4 days before we could even attempt a run. And then as we're coming through, you can see the different bending of the trees, one side of the storm. Yes, that's the word. Yes. Very traumatic, and it's just rough. But I think I keep telling myself everything's going to be okay. Our cat was a trooper. She stayed in the car for 10 hours and go to the bathroom. No. We just gave her a little bit of food. She slept and she was fine. My wife was awesome. Yeah. Her Mustang, a tiny, tiny trunk. It's packed with batteries, fuel, all the stuff that we thought we would need. Yeah. We got a generator at home waiting for us, still in the box. And, it started to kind of become real when we hit Mariana. Yeah. We pulled our fuel, started seeing the long lines. We saw a lot of what I call the highway heroes, people heading this way, linemen and people with supplies and stuff like that. Then I'm like, okay, we're getting close to ground zero.
Fire departments from all different counties. I noticed that coming in. I was recognizing counties from states.
I didn't think it would affect me, but it did. It got me right here. I was like, wow, those guys are all my heroes. Yeah. And then coming down 231, it's starting to get very, very real. You're seeing power lines still in the road. It took us probably 10 hours from St. Pete to get back.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a 2-hour drive from Tallahassee. It's a 6-hour drive. It
was rough. Her car has a stick shift. So, your foot's getting tired and everything. But you think you're heading back home and everything's going to be okay. Still thinking that. We pull into our driveway. Well, we couldn't really get in the driveway because of the trees. We're parked on the street. And I told my wife, I said, let me go in first just to make sure there's not like a broken pipe spraying all over the place or something that's going to make you very upset when you first see it. Right. Yeah. Let me take the surprise. Well, I went in. It took me about 30 seconds to realize we're not going to live there anymore. Oh, no. I don't know what exactly happened. Of course, the roof failed, old roof. Yeah. The middle of the house had split and formed a peak. Oh, no. So the houses, they're on Lizamie. very small, very small house, smallest house I've ever lived in. I think it got picked up or something because it like split in half.
Interesting.
And I mean, that peak in that floor was the biggest aggravation. We were trying to salvage what we owned
Yeah.
because I tripped on it 10,000 times.
Oh, no.
You're walking on
Like a
and trip.
constant
Yes.
reminder.
Constant reminder. Anyway, I shut the door. My wife goes, "We're not going to stay there, are we?" I'm like, "No." She goes, "No power." I go, "No house."
Yeah, a little bit more than no power.
Not livable. Mold had started to form and everything. And none of the windows were broken, but all of our trees were gone, except for one. And there was one by the porch that was leaning like this. It had actually collapsed our porch into the ground. The tree is so old that the root ball had moved and the house started sinking.
Ooh.
So we're scrambling, trying to find, we still can't contact her sister, who I work for, to contact them. Is this where we work? Is that okay? Are we all going to group up, meet up? Of course, no cell phone signal, no internet, of course. My wife's like, we're going to have to get a hotel room. We lucked out and found one on Pack Beach Road on the beach. Their computers were down. As we're getting the key to the room and going in, okay, I hear somebody behind me who was a lineman or some sort of construction worker. He said, "What do you mean you gave my room away?" I'm like, oh no.
Oh no.
So I've had the guilt of that, but I'm like, also, I can sleep in the car, but my family can't,
Yeah.
So we go in, they can only give us a room for one night.
Yeah.
So we're still trying to find my brother-in-law and sister-in-law to see what's going on. They live on the very west end of the beach. See if they were affected, make sure they're okay. They have a daughter, our niece, she's like one of our own children. Make sure she's all right. They had evacuated to Destin, we found out later. I was able to rescue my motorcycle from the driveway and move a couple of trees just to get it out, and it was fine. And I drive that to the hotel, and my wife says, well, she wants to see if her sister's okay. We drive out there. There's nobody around. There's no note on the door. Still can't contact anybody.
Yeah.
I said, we're going to have to give this up.
It on food.
Basically. Yes.
And that's not even working.
We left our gas cans and my motorcycle in their driveway with no explanation. They must have just, I don't know what they thought when they found that we just blew in from somewhere.
Yeah.
We stayed at the hotel. My wife was able to find a place in Sandestin.
Okay.
And we stayed there for a week. And then, of course, now it's starting, the realization's hitting me, okay, we're only going one direction away from our old life. I'm starting to realize day after day that basically it seems kind of silly, but it is really the truth. To me, it was almost like a death in the family, losing a house.
Oh, yeah.
It was our first house that we owned, and we've been there so long. I mean, not valuable at all, not the greatest neighborhood, but it is to me now. I'm nostalgic for it.
Aww.
And we had about a 2-hour commute to Sandestin and back to where I work on the beach. Once I was able to group up with everybody, and we had power, no credit cards, no internet, but we were able to service our customers. And we're in an industry, it's a hardware store, so that's something that needed to be opened as soon as we could. As soon as we physically could open it, we did open it, And it was very trying, though. 2 hours stopping no traffic each way.
And traffic was
horrible, outrageous, because all the contractors were staying out there, and then they'd all come back to the beach or to town.
I can imagine.
That was very trying on me, because I would go, they wouldn't let me keep my motorcycle on property.
No.
Because it's a fancy place. It's Baytown Wharf. Okay. No problem. Can I park in the employee lot? Yes. I have to take their little tourist shuttle. So you have no idea what it's like to work all day, still worried about your house, trying to figure out what you're going to do next. You're all dirty and everything. Come home. And then hopping on a little tourist shuttle with everyone smells like coconuts, and they're all, half,
not a care in the world.
Not a care. They have no idea.
Yeah.
I must have looked quite awful to them, but I mean, to me, I'm like, you people are in your own world here.
Yes. I was studying in Tallahassee.
Oh, okay.
So right out the gate, the community was close enough to really feel
Oh,
it.
sure.
But then after a month, everybody went back naturally to their lives, their daily needs. And,
sure.
And so I was still swimming amongst that.
Oh,
I always like to give FSU credit. The staff there, educationers, professors, my students, they were really all there. Or my fellow students were great through it. They were really all there for me. But it was weird moving through society that had already moved on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And, I'm sure that happens anywhere there's a storm. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that's what they're going through in the Bahamas right now. So, I mean, it's like I kind of have a little bit of survivor's guilt because we could just keep paying money and continue on and live the lifestyle that we were used to. You know, not everybody had that luxury. And we were able to secure a condo on the beach about 2 minutes away from where I work, thanks to my brother-in-law.
That's great.
Because they're a customer of ours. And
Yeah.
again, it was the same thing. They were only allowing first responders in there.
Yeah.
And they actually went on a lockdown. They weren't letting anybody in or out. I don't know. The whole politics behind it had something to do with FEMA housing. I really don't know what they were doing, but they were doing it for the resident safety.
Yeah.
So,
Now, how long after the landfall and you having to commute back and forth was this? That you
I think it
got
was
into the
October
condo?
20th we moved
Okay.
in.
So you were doing the back and forth for a couple.
Oh,
weeks.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. That was a really rough time.
Yeah.
You know, the place we were staying at was beautiful, way nicer than what we needed. You know, I had even debated staying. There's a little office space where I work, staying there.
Yeah.
You know, because staying with a relative or something can be difficult if you have a cat. You know, because they have a stigma. And our cat was good, but you know, that's a tough pill for some people to swallow.
I have a very hyper Australian Shepherd, so I
Okay.
get
Yeah. And you know, my wife and her sister, they get along very good as adults now, and I'd like to maintain that.
Yeah.
Especially since I work for one and live with the other. You know,
Smart thing.
well, trying to be smart. And they're type A for personalities, so that makes
fun.
it yeah. But they're both sweet ladies.
Yes. Yes.
We spent the fall in the condo. Now it's like, you know, we're recovering.
Yeah.
We're starting to get regular routine back. You know, I'm all about routine, and I don't know if everybody's like this, but I had an established routine. Even coming here to the interview, I had a usual way that I like to drive to come to Panama City.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But I couldn't do it because I don't want to pass the house. And so even now, the routine was off because, you know, you would think I would take my usual commute home, and I didn't because it would upset me. And you think it's crazy, but there is a lot of memories there,
Yeah.
you know, and it affected me. I feel bad that we didn't protect the house adequately. You know, I'm like, maybe I should have got a new roof before the storm. Maybe I should have done this.
Well, it kind of sounds like with your little arc in the middle of the house, it doesn't really sound
Right.
like, you know,
True.
the hurricane
True.
was coming for your house no matter what.
Yes, it was. And I mean, and even now I see some things that I'm like, wow, it's sad.
Yeah.
So it was very somber. Halloween's always a big deal for my wife and I. We're big Halloween nuts, and you know, no trick-or-treaters up on the 21st floor, you know.
I've always wondered about that. I know there are actually, even before the storm, certain condos did long-term rentals. If you lived in Panama City, you could rent and live out there. And I always wondered if there's trick-or-treaters that would go door to door on these condos.
They would have been welcome at our house because we didn't have much. And then Thanksgiving was tough also, you know, another family holiday that we weren't able to really go anywhere or be with anybody. We went to a restaurant, Saltwater Grill. Always loved that place. That was my wife and I's place. Hope it's okay to say the name.
No, absolutely. I love throwing little shout outs to local establishments.
They're a good restaurant. And a lot of great memories there. And they did a Thanksgiving spread. And I thought, well, that would be fun, you know. And before the food came to us, my wife was crying because she was like, we should not be here. We should be with family. And, you know, we couldn't serve anything on our own table. So we ended up, I just ate real quick. We boxed up everything and went home with it. Yeah.
That's hard to hear.
So that was kind of sad. And then Christmas comes, you know, and we're, again, thankful that we have a good situation. And we're not in our own place yet, but at least we're comfortable and safe and $1 million view, you know.
Yeah. There's silver linings in every
there is.
disaster, and that's a great silver lining.
There is. And we have our niece, Peyton, who, I mean, again, she is like our own little daughter. She comes and visits with us. And about maybe twice a month, once a month, she'll come and stay over with. Well, she came and stayed with us at the condo. So I'm like, okay, life is getting back to normal little by little. Christmas comes. Now, of course, I had spent every night since we moved into Lake Town Wharf, going to our house, salvaging what I could, you know, throwing away tons of stuff. Whenever I wasn't at work, we were there just throwing stuff away, saving some of the memories that we could. You know, we lost all our furniture, half of our clothes. My wife wants her Christmas stuff up. She goes, my Christmas tree is gone. We have some ornaments, we have some stuff, but it's all packed away.
Yeah.
We've got like 40 boxes of what was our life at my job, and I went to Bob House Furniture on Front Beach Road.
Yeah.
It's a little vintage resale store.
Okay.
I took $12 I had in my pocket and I bought up, he had like ornaments, vintage Christmas stuff,
yay.
the cheap stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. I got a whole box of Christmas stuff and we set that up, a little tiny little Christmas display at the condo.
Yeah.
Ran lights up the palm tree that was in the corner and stuff. And I think that was probably the best $12 I spent during the entire hurricane, because my wife got a kick out of that. And those ornaments are going to be front and center when she puts her Christmas stuff up this year, because that meant so much to her.
There's memory associated.
Oh, of course. Of course. It was just the crazy old 1950s stuff, but she liked it and I liked it.
Yeah.
But still, it doesn't feel like home.
Yeah.
But around this time, my wife found out she had to have major surgery. And I'm like, wow. We're out house shopping. We've got everything moved out of the old house. We got somebody was nice enough to recommend a buyer to me.
Yeah.
Somebody who buys distressed properties, probably going to turn it into a rental.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that was a saving grace. We've been paid by the insurance, so we paid off our mortgage.
You're able to get that process going.
Process going, got the house sold, rescued all our memories, rescued what we could of just material things. It's silly, but hey, this hardcover book of the Stephen King survived.
My
so
favorite author.
I have to keep that. Little things like I had an empty guitar case that caught most of the ceiling in my music room, and the ceiling went like this. All my guitars and synthesizers were over here. They were all spared because of that stupid thing, So it was just so hit or miss, the things that we lost and were able to save.
Yeah.
Find out my wife's going to go for surgery, and it's scheduled on the 27th of December. Okay, 2 days after Christmas.
And only a few months after the storm.
We have a closing on the house. We were lucky enough to find a house. We went house shopping.
Yeah.
Found a house, brand new construction, and we went and looked at a bunch of other ones. I told my wife, I'm like, whatever it is, you need a sign on it.
Yeah.
We had, little things like you would think you would have a choice of colors, flooring, stuff like that. That you didn't have a choice of any of that, and I was thankful just to have somewhere to live that was my own.
Yeah.
Well, the closing's on the 31st of December. So try fitting Christmas, a major surgery, house closing, selling another house, and doing all that.
I can't imagine.
My wife got an allergic reaction to antibiotics Christmas Day. We were in the emergency room.
Oh.
So 2 days before she's supposed to have a surgery, she's got an emergency room visit because she's got something else wrong with her.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking that's going to goof up her surgery date.
Yeah.
It's going to goof up our closing on our house. We're not going to have a house. It's just like all these things coming at to us. I'm like, we had we got complacent again. And look, tragedy struck again. She recovered. She had her surgery. It was no problem. The doctor comes out with the old cliched, oh, she did great.
Yeah.
No. How did you do? Because I know she did great.
That's awesome. I've never heard that.
I just want to make sure you did everything you're supposed to do, because she's all I got left. And
inject a little humor into this.
yeah, well, I have to.
You're good at it.
They had to do a power of attorney for her in case something happened to her or she was incapacitated or some reason after the surgery, so that I could close on the house because we're both on the mortgage. And I'm like, well, that sounds very final and really not
terrifying.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It was the word. And I would go through my work day, okay, and I go home and I'm like, oh God, here we go again. Has her surgery, everything's fine. We close on the house, everything's fine. I'm like, okay, everything's gonna be fine. I said, okay, well, I've got the key. I know where I'm sleeping tonight.
Yeah.
And my wife says, no, you can't. There's no furniture. There we go again. I don't care.
Yeah. You just
There's
be in these walls.
There's air conditioning. Yeah. There's, she goes, there's no Wi-Fi. I don't care. There's electricity. There's water. I can take a shower.
Yeah.
Because that's how I am. Like you tell me we're going to Disney World, I'm there at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I wanted to move in the house. She goes, we can't move in till, I think it was February 20th. or January 20th. Pardon me, January 20th. I'm like, 3 weeks. She goes, yes, 3 weeks. You're going to have to wait. And I'm like, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I had to wait.
Yeah.
One load at a time. Okay. Where I work, we rent trucks. Okay. Couldn't get one because they're impossible to get. They're still tough to get in this area. Used her Mustang, tiny trunk, 1 box at a time.
Oh no.
She can't lift more than 5 pounds.
Yeah.
Rightly so. So all she can do is go, that goes there, that goes there. You know, I'm doing 2 and 3 box trips a night with a box each time, bringing stuff to the new house. Have to make sure, is there any mold in here? Did you miss anything?
You want to carry anything into the new home.
Pests, you know, a mouse could hop in there, a roach could hop in there. You never know, you know. Make sure nothing's in there, okay?
That's something really good to consider that I'm glad you brought attention to. And this is, if anybody runs across this interview and they're going through something similar, part of the whole project is exposing them to things they may not think of.
Yes.
And that might be one of them is moving your old into the new. Be careful about transferring damage into the new home.
You don't want any mildew or anything that can come with it, you know. So the new house has a garage. So now that becomes, just like every house in the neighborhood, that's a storage unit. So I have all these big bins from work and I'm just stacking them in the piles, you know, higher than I can get. Now, we didn't pack in the traditional sense. We scavenged. So my wife will go, where is such and such? And I'll be like, I don't know. You got to open 40 boxes to find the one thing that why she's got to have it right now, but she's got to have it. So you have to find it, you know. Meanwhile, she's nesting and she's ordering furniture and looking at things. Again, I feel very fortunate that we were able to buy new furniture because our insurance company was Tower Hill. They were so good to us. And
I like that too, to throw a little bit of shine of light on the people that did good.
Yes. They did. It was called an abbreviated claim where the guy comes in and he said, I can itemize or I can just go, yep, max.
There you go.
So we were very fortunate that way. But I mean, it's a couple of my friends and relatives have said, well, it's like you won the lottery. Well, not really, because I didn't have a choice. I wasn't looking to play the lottery.
Yeah.
And all of life got turned upside down for somebody who's, you know, slightly OCD. That's tough for me, you know. My cup is supposed to be here. Now it's over here. I mean, those are silly little things, but that is things that bother me, you know.
No, I think for some personalities, myself included, streamlining your life, those routines, knowing where you're.
There's comfort in it for me, you know, and that's all gone.
Smooth sailing.
That's all gone. We have to create new routines.
Yep. And I'm sure your wife getting to shop for the furniture and nest was cathartic for her.
Oh, God, very much so. Yes. She was very happy.
She could see the light at the end of the tunnel.
And we went from something that was about 651 square feet to 1,651 square feet. So now, I think everything fit in this little box.
Yeah.
Half of it's gone. Okay, so you have this little bit, and you go put this in this big giant house.
Yay.
You know, we still hear echoes in there, you know, because there's not enough stuff on the walls or not enough clutter yet, you know.
A lot of work to do.
Yes.
Well, that is good. It sounds like there's a really good home that you picked.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Again, I feel very lucky, and, you know, I feel bad for anybody who was. There's people still that are living in rental properties, you know, because they've got to be hard hit. You know, a lot of them, when I was a renter when young, I didn't have renter's insurance.
Or even RVs outside of their
Oh, yeah, exactly. You know, that takes a lot of love if you can really live in a small space with somebody, you know.
And animals.
Yeah, and animals, right.
Sticking.
Well, I'm coming to that. We had a kitty, little Siamese, and that was my buddy. She made it through the hurricane perfectly. It a month after we were in the new house, she stopped eating. And I'm like, what's that about?
Oh, no.
And then she wouldn't leave. We have her box and her food and stuff in her bathroom.
Yeah.
And she won't leave the bath mat. And I mean, this is a cat that follows me around everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at her, and she's looking at me, and she seems okay. She's breathing all right.
Yeah.
So well, I'm going to see how she is tomorrow. And then she still hadn't eaten anything, hadn't used her box. I'm like, oh, that's really weird. You know, of course, you become the Google detective, and you look, oh, it's probably a UTI. Okay. We take her to the vet, and they're like, this cat's in bad shape. Not only does she have a UTI, she's also got growth on her liver.
Oh, no.
She probably had that through the entire storm.
Yeah.
And a lot of people out there are going to think this is really crazy, but
Probably not.
That cat and I had a connection.
Yeah.
It's like she waited until we were good, and then she said, "Okay, I gotta go," and that's basically what happened. I mean, and that was, we made it all through the winter. We're in a new house. We're starting, and then another pow.
Well, you said that might sound crazy coming to some people's ears and receiving that, but I think more people than you realize are going to identify with that and agree with you that you no doubt had a connection with that kitty, and she no doubt held on to her struggle until she felt like you were.
She did. She was the best hurricane buddy. We actually made up a little award and gave it to her.
Aww.
Best during the hurricane, because the rest of us were not good at times, at different times, but she was the queen during all that.
Yeah.
She just wanted to make sure she had somewhere to sleep, and she's cool.
I'm sorry you lost her.
Well, that's okay, because something good came out of it. There was we were able to get a rescue. Who was outside during the storm.
What a good way to honor her.
And I didn't want another cat or another animal because, no one will replace her. You're not going to replace her.
I know people like that.
We went to the pound, and my wife had found her online, and we adopted another kitty. And she's a brat, but she's lovable, and her personality is a lot different. And that is my wife's cat.
You're learning a new.
Oh, yes. And this cat is living in his house and lounging on stuff that we didn't even own. I'm like, you have no idea how we got here. And she just looks at me. She doesn't care. She's just like, whatever. Just keep the food bowl full.
And she was a Hurricane Michael survivor too.
Yes.
Hurricane survivor.
She went through the storm outside, so she actually is braver than me. And now she is strictly inside cat, and she's got a good life. Now she hit the lottery, not me.
Oh, I like it. Yeah. So we're coming up on the year anniversary.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? Are you obviously? It sounds like you're in a better spot.
Oh, much better now.
Continuously.
I'm at the point now. See, something we couldn't do is, and I saw a lot of people doing this, being able to help a neighbor because of us leaving town and then never coming back. We were never able to really do anything for our neighbors, and we had some great friends. My wife's best friend from high school gave us a little bit of money, which was nice just in the interim until we could get things flowing, just so we could have things like cups and saucers, because the dishes, even then, they were ruined.
Conveniences of life you never think about.
Yes, another guy that I used to work with who had retired, him and his wife were nice enough to send us some money, and it's just I don't know. I wouldn't know what to do different next time.
You speak about not being able to be of an immediate assistance right out the gate of a disaster of this scale, but I think that immediate heroic deeds that we all did right out the gate that felt, you got to be there in that immediate traumatic moment.
Yeah.
And those are the moments that people feel that sense of heroism, that adrenaline of right out the gate. Those are the deeds that spotlights are shown upon, but I think what most people don't realize is this far out now, when people are in the middle of their recovery, their insurance isn't working well with them. Their red tape is driving them to low points. The depression's hitting, the houses being lost. There's a time period now where the sooner you could get yourself stabilized, I think you don't realize how much more poignant your assistance to people now would be.
I agree. That's a good way to put that.
Yeah, so I think you're in a good position that regardless of what you could and couldn't do in the beginning, you can help people at points that don't stand out in the talk of the town as far as helping out. That is more needed and less thought of this far out.
And even, when we could get internet, when I was staying out of town, I had, Facebook friends, social media people, well, what can we do? And I kept saying the same thing. I'm like, we're okay. Our life's upside down, but financially we're okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, just give to the disaster relief charity of your choice. Some people don't like this one or that one, or they question their motive. Just give to the one and give generously.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that message went out to a bunch of my friends.
And now you're still a community member. So as the recovery unfolds, and like I said, we're at that point now where, recovery is sinusoidal. Sometimes people are going to feel like they're getting somewhere like you were feeling, and then that other tragedy strikes and they're feeling they're getting somewhere. And these people are under the wave of it all. So it's going to take comfortable community members like us to see them through.
Sure, definitely. I agree. I agree. I mean, there's just still so much devastation. I hadn't been down Beach Drive. And I mean, that used to be one of my favorite spots. I drive my motorcycle there, drive my bicycle down there even. And it's wrecked, and it's just very sad. So many beautiful homes there that, the homes are still standing, but I mean, trees and
The personality of the area.
the personality.
Has been
Yes.
really hurt.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The Cove, same thing. One of my favorite spots, going down in the Cove, and I haven't seen Spanish moss since before the storm. It's a silly thing to be nostalgic for, but I am.
No, it's not silly at all. There's the fact that you're not seeing what you used to see, and there's also the interesting fallout of the different new forms of foliage that are in the area from the storm dropping seeds.
Definitely.
And now you have these new plants.
There's that, and I think that something is different with the bug and reptile population too.
Oh, I have no doubt. I mean, their homes were turned upside down.
Exactly.
They don't have projects to talk about their struggle, but they have their own struggle in there. I think you're right. I think there's a lot of differences in our home, our lives, all the way down to the bugs around us in their lives.
I mean, in a nutshell, it's basically like when I first moved here, it was right after Opal, and people would say, well, you have to prepare, there's a hurricane coming through town. Okay, what you do is you put these duct tape X's on your window, have some water, have your little crank up weather radio, and you'll be fine.
Yep.
Well, no, what you need is another place to live inside your hurricane kit. A plan B, definitely. And didn't have one.
Hopefully with this project, its whole goal is not necessarily to dwell on just the bad or talk about the shock and awe of the storm itself, but more of the nuance of what we've just been talking about, the nuance of recovery, the nuance and details of things people might not consider when they find themselves going through the process. And if they're out there typing words into the internet to feel not so alone and they run across this project in this interview, hopefully it either gives them some insight they're not thinking about pre-storm, helps them not feel alone during their recovery. That's the whole reason we're doing this. So there's not a how-to manual out there to do what you did.
No, there's not. And even now, if God forbid, there was a storm heading for us right now, of course, there's 6 in the Atlantic, 6 active things happening.
Everyone's watching.
And, you don't wish it on anybody else, but I mean, am I ready right now? I don't feel that I am.
You're still in recovery.
I am.
It's natural to not feel ready. The whole town would be in that vulnerable position. Hopefully we get at least a decade break from another big storm.
I want to place the statistics. This is probably the worst storm that my wife and I at our age go through. After this, hopefully.
And I did this project thinking of future communities and hearing your voices, the voices of Hurricane Michael. And you could not have told me, and I really should, I would have probably believed it, but probably not, that while we were working this project, it's not the United States, but another community would be abolished, like it has been in the Bahamas. That occurred. Today's September 8th,
20th.
So the September 20th, is the time of this interview being taped right now.
Right.
Less than a couple of weeks after Hurricane Dorian barreled over the Bahamas. So that community is going through what we went through right out the gate. And it's almost
like, I think it might be worse because where do you go? I mean, sure, it's 80 miles to the mainland, but does everybody there have a boat?
I would venture to agree with you. Yeah. And like I said, it's very jarring that something like that's already happened to another community in the middle of working on this project. So I think it's more important than ever that we complete this and get it out there.
Well, and I was going to say, that probably brings me to something that I've noticed, St. Andrews, what they're doing there is just, it's almost like a whole renaissance. It was on the cusp of being something very cool and very hip. And now it's turning into something that's just wonderful. And our commissioner, when we lived here, she unfortunately doesn't represent us anymore, Jenna Flint Halligas. She's an amazing person.
Yeah.
If you ever get a chance to meet with her, it's great. She's very open to suggestions, and I've told her about what some other cities have done, the mural projects and stuff, and they want to encourage a lot of that downtown.
Yeah.
Because downtown could be very, very cool.
Yeah.
About 15 years ago, I volunteered on the Downtown Improvement Board, and there was a lot of people who had the right idea, but there was just a lot of merchants who were just like, well, I'm doing my thing. What do I care what my neighbors do? Yeah. Because we want to make it a destination. And we had a mayor here for 30 years continuously, and nothing changed downtown.
Yeah.
But even coming to meet you here tonight and where we're at, I mean, you could see that the potential is here, right around the corner, History Class Brewing, Alan Branch.
Yep. I've heard of that.
A great guy. He's got long ties to this area, and he's definitely doing things the right way. I almost feel just a bit guilty that I've moved to the beach, because I know I don't know how long you've been here, but there is, I don't want to call it a schism, but it's definitely, there's 2 separate towns. To me, coming here as an outsider, it's all Bay County is all one. we're most likely not going to move back here.
Yeah.
So I feel guilty for leaving the area. You know, you read in newspapers, magazines, or if it's mentioned on a TV show, even, it's always considered Panama City. You know, the beach is named for the city. They each have their pluses, you know, and there's negative things anywhere, but I mean, they each have their own little character and stuff. But I wish that they could, turn into one big home.
I'm actually glad that you brought that up, because that's something we haven't discussed too much in the project. So you bring that to the table. It's a very unique perspective in that if you're an outsider to the area, you're watching these interviews in this project, you may not be familiar with the fact that there is a very unique and distinctive identities on the west side of the bridge and the east side of the bridge. They are almost two different worlds that all work together as much as they possibly can, but they are two different personalities. And I agree with you. Seeing that united one day would be an amazing thing.
That is, because I always lived here but worked there, so I always feel like it's all the same to me.
Yeah.
A lot of people, that bridge is some sort of barrier, that they can't spiritually. A gateway, right? And,
I agree with you. And that's something that people outside the area may not be familiar with. So now we've got to kind of bring attention to that.
I'm probably going to stay where we're living, but I'm going to try and patronize the stores down here. And when the brewery opens, that's going to be cool.
There are some of us out there that on each side of the bridge, many of us that feel the other side of the bridge is home, and we feel the same way of it being all one place, and we're all in the same community, and we're all in it together. And I think it'll take each of us on either side of the bridge to keep that unity as strong as it can be.
Yeah. So it's, where we live, again, very blessed, but I do kind of miss home still.
It feels like a totally different world.
It does. This is only my second time over since, we officially moved out. Yeah. About maybe 2 months ago, my wife wanted to go to Lucky's Market. And she goes, come with me. I'm like, I don't want to go. And she goes, why? And I'm like, because it'll upset me. And she goes, just come. Boy, that was like ripping a Band-Aid off, because then I did it. Now I'm like, okay, I can go over here on my own.
Zoom around all you want now.
Yeah. And, they've got a long way to go. And I think the city does have a good plan from what I'm seeing, and there's things that have been prioritized lower that eventually will get worked on. The parks. I always thought Panama City had a pretty good park system, little small parks scattered all the way so that people can enjoy them. And, most of those were decimated. Yeah. And the cemeteries. You
took it right out of my mouth. The cemeteries.
There's some very cool cemeteries up Lisenby, some old graves up there. Dempsey Barron, the famous legislator, real character, if you read about him, his grave is up there. Oh, wow. So I've been up there and taking pictures, and stuff. And now it's like, very overgrown with weeds and stuff. The landscape has changed, not just from the ground, but, there's so many people who left town. Yeah. Kind of what happened in New Orleans, not to compare to that, it was a little bit different, but I can definitely see where they're coming from.
Displacement.
You wouldn't want it to change the fabric of the society, the culture here, not that I'm not open to change, but the core culture of it needs to be preserved. There is a certain amount of history here, Gideon versus Wainwright, right up the street, and it's kind of cool to me. I always thought that was neat,
Well, I think it's going to take community members such as yourself, beach side or proper Panama City side, to bring it back into civility and to nurture that history. Some people are, you're thinking about it. So it's going to take people like you thinking about the history, preserving the history. And
I'm more of a follower, though. I'm not I can't rally the troops, start a grassroots thing, but I'll help out if somebody else is doing it.
Obviously. And the project really thanks you for coming out today and lending some insight into your experience.
Hopefully I didn't wander too much.
No, actually it was amazing.
Okay,
I think you brought a lot to the table that, like, every time I came into this project, I like to say this, studying in Tallahassee, being away from home and struggling with being an outsider over there with people that moved on comfortably. And that just felt like I was buried in what was going on over here. So one of my cathartic things to get through that was I was a part of all the Facebook groups that came out. So Hurricane Michael after, or Bay County after Hurricane Michael updates, et cetera, 850 strong. So I just all year I'm reading these stories, and it's keeping me. Shirt? Yeah, it's keeping me in touch with home and not feeling like such an alien in this different world over there. Yeah. And so coming into the project, I felt like I'd heard it all. I've read all the novels. I've read all the status updates. I know what's coming my way for this project, and I was wrong. Yeah. So wrong. Yeah. Everybody I've interviewed has brought something new and unique, something I haven't considered, something the project hasn't been exposed to yet. And you did the same today.
Oh,
You brought
good.
things that
Okay.
haven't been discussed and shed light on some things that needed to be talked about. And thank you so much for
No
coming out
problem.
today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.